Good Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you may be.
Oh, it's us.
It is us. Did you forget we were doing this?
No, I just put it in the background. I was doing something and then I heard your voice and I need to come to the stream. Here I am.
And here you are. Hi, by the way, everybody. My name is Darren. This over here is Victor, and we're the host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox that comes out on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, when we're around, we do a live show. And today happens to be one of those Fridays. But we're quickly entering a time to where those are going to become few and far between, I think.
What's happening?
Well, you're traveling a lot more.
Is it
well,
me?
You're traveling.
Oh, it's me. Oh.
You're traveling some. I'm traveling a little bit. So we may not be here a lot of Fridays. Karen, good to see you. Do you want to try his name? I don't want to.
Rashab.
Rashab.
Yeah, I'm a name pronouncing expert.
And I'm not.
I don't know whether that's correct. So correct us, Rashab.
Hopefully it is. Let's get into it because this is going to be a short stream today. I have another meeting at the top of the next hour, and I need to actually get ready for it. How many people actually... No, I'm not going to go there. But how often do you actually prepare for your next meeting, Victor?
Never.
I try to. But
my life is back-to-back meetings. If I need to prepare, then I'm sorry, but it's not happening because I'm just jumping from a different meeting.
That might be my problem, is I don't live in back-to-back meetings, so I feel the responsibility to be prepared to show up for a meeting. Because I usually decline meetings.
One thing is responsibility, but the other thing is reality.
You know me, right?
Yeah, I remember. I wasn't sure
okay.
whether I'm pronouncing the name, but definitely remember the face. Yeah.
Yep, Marcin, good to see you. Let's go ahead and get into it. This week's episode that came out on Wednesday was with Mav Turner. If I get to the right place, there we go. Mav Turner from Tricentis. And it was sort of a departure from what we normally talk about, but not really. We were talking about how to launch a product. Tricentis recently launched what they consider to be a small product on the Atlassian marketplace. It integrates with Jira, whatever, And we went through a lot of different things. One of the things that we talked about, which I think we've got to bring Mav back on at some point in the future to get into what happens when a founder refuses to leave the company that they started that was acquired. Because that can be not necessarily leave, but they can't let go. I think that's the bigger problem. I would probably be one of those bad founders.
I would be a horrible founder. I know that.
Well, the way that you said it on the podcast was, this was my baby. And we didn't actually go into the analogy, but you have a daughter, I have a daughter. I poured 18 years into her, and then it was like, see you, bye. Can you leave now? Quickly, right? You're not to that point yet.
No, I'm waiting for it.
You're waiting for it. It'll be here sooner than you think. But anyway, I thought this is probably one of all of our episodes are good. This is one of my favorite episodes that we've done because it was just talking about different things of actually how to, if you're trying to bring a product to market, things to think about, how to do it. So that was episode 213, Wednesdays, 6 a.m. Eastern, noon CET is when the podcast comes out. This was a completely boring news week. Did anything come across your plate this week that you saw that was like,
Yes,
interesting?
AI.
That's a fire hose right now. I don't. I'm trying to keep away from that. So today's episode is short data, but there's going to be one thing we talk about that I think is interesting. But the data that we have today is primarily about AWS. They now have a pull-through cache for ECR to the new Kubernetes registry, which recently did the big rename change stuff.
Yeah.
And when they started out with ECR, you could basically use it for pull through from ECR public or from Quay, which is two of the big public registries. But now they've got it for Kubernetes as well. So now this is going to be taking even more load off of registry, which is good.
Exactly.
Especially as a vendor, you shouldn't be going out to registry every time. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and also, if you're AWS user, you probably don't want to start paying the ingress, egress, and all that stuff.
Well, actually, since you'd be doing a poll, it should be free coming in, but
Exactly.
AWS still has to pay for it.
Yeah,
Right.
but not you as a
AWS person.
user. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought this was good. So if you're living inside of AWS and you're using ECR and you've been pulling directly from registry.kubernetes.io, stop it. Go reconfigure ECR to do a pull through and just be done with it. It'll be faster, by the way. What I didn't look at is this cached globally or not, or is this your flavor? I don't think what they have is ECR to another layer of ECR out. Could there be a global cache or not?
It's probably global, yeah.
I don't think so. Not the way I was reading it.
Okay,
But anyway.
maybe.
So anyway, pull through caches,
Another thing
always
to
a good
try.
thing. Yeah, always a good thing. And then the next thing was, all right, when was the last time we talked about Docker Shim? A year ago? That's what it feels like.
Are we talking about Docker Shim now? What the heck?
We are talking about Docker Shim. Can you believe it? I'd forgotten about it until I read this. So, but think about it. What we said last week, EKS is now 127, which means they're supporting 27, 26, 25, 24. 24 was the last one that had Docker Shim support. So that's getting ready to go away in June, this month.
Yeah. I hope that actually companies moved away from using Docker Shim long
To
before
Container
they,
Yeah,
yeah, before
now.
this now.
But if they haven't,
hey,
but see, that was the problem is when they shipped, where it was. Okay, so EKS said Docker Engine is the default runtime until 123. They started supporting Containerd as in 123, and then Containerd was the default for 124 and on. But 123 is just now dying out. So if you're still running Docker Shim and you're still running Docker as your runtime,
shame on you.
I can't say it any better. That's shame on you. It's time. But can you imagine having to get automatically upgraded from 123 to 124 and your runtime changes from Docker to Containerd? It's one thing to have the control plane change up.
If you get upgraded automatically and you enter into the world of suffering because you're using Docker in your Kubernetes clusters, then you deserve to suffer.
We're going to revisit that in a few minutes.
Okay.
Sort of. So anyway, those are the two stories from AWS this week. There's this article. Cloud dependencies need to stop effing us when they go down.
What
This
is
is
a cloud dependency in this context?
Well, a cloud dependency is anything that you're calling from your application. So GitHub, Twilio, anything you're interacting with from your application.
Got it, yeah. Public
Right?
services, APIs.
Public services that are not under your control. This is a great article. We are going to do a podcast about this, but I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about it today. I have a problem with this thought process. They are not effing us when they go down. We are effing ourselves. We'll spend a lot more time talking about this, but you need to read everything in context. He makes his cases. I don't have a problem with the cases he makes. But from what's the phrase I'm looking for this headline? It's clickbait, and it got me to click. But I've gotten angrier and angrier as I've read the article. Because it's not AWS's Twilio's, anybody else's problem if my app goes down, other than my own.
So here's a question. Almost everything on Newstack is actually sponsored blog.
It is.
Post.
It's sponsored. Yeah.
Which company is this?
The company is, I'm glad you said that, it is Metrist. Metrist.
Never heard of. Okay.
They actually have a pretty good stack of clients.
Nice.
So, take a look at it. So again, I don't have a problem with the premise, but I have a bigger problem that it's their fault. It's not my fault for actually trying to build resiliency into my app if a dependency I have goes down. That's all I'm saying. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I haven't read it, but is it a vendor complaining about other vendors?
I'm not going to go that far. I don't think because I don't know that that's true, right? He's not complaining about the other vendors, but he's just making the statement that my app is running, but somebody I depend on goes down. We can't, I can't run my app if you're going to be going down. But he makes good arguments about this. This was one of my favorite ones. Where was it? I scrolled down too far. So you'd think that if you rely on multiple services with 4 nines of uptime, you would have a product with 4 nines as well.
No, but it's cumulative, right?
And there's supposedly there's math here, but basically for every hard dependency that you have of 4 nines, you need to subtract 0, 1 from there. The argument here that was interesting was there was also one other, where was it? For example, a typical digital product might rely on 50 digital cloud products. That number, you think that's okay? You're nodding in yes.
50, a typical product does not depend on typical cloud products. That's too high of a number, I think.
I could see an overall thing.
Yeah, kind of big guys, yes. I mean, big projects and stuff like that might, but typical, no. Sounds like a too high of a number. So here's a story, right? And I don't know how this is related to the article, which I haven't read. And that's that everything is getting more interconnected, right? We will be depending on services more, not less, right? That's simply, it's unavoidable, right? Now, how we deal with those dependencies, that's a different question, right? Should you go down because Twitter is down? You shouldn't. But there's no removing those dependencies. They will just increase.
And that's the part I'm in agreement with. But we can't not proactively, defensively program against outages. The only thing that's guaranteed in life is death and AWS going down. I think US East 1 has a higher probability of always going down than taxes being due on time. So I get what he's going for here. I'm not in disagreement, but it's got to. We can't just say, hey, here's my fast and easy thing. If you're trying to do fast and easy, then don't expect people to pay you big money. Maybe not. What Kieran was saying here is true. It's hard to make applications 100%. Look, I don't think 100% is even real. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It cannot be done. We have this thing called speed of light. And we also have this thing called squirrels in power substations. The chaos that exists, you'll never be 100% resilient. Never, ever. If anybody tells you they've never gone down ever, the only way that would happen is if they're a mainframe that's still been running in the 60s. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
And which is what Ari says here. There's one more thing: Jenkins will always exist. That or mainframes. Yeah, okay, well, mainframes will never go away, just like Kubernetes will never go away. Except
Nothing goes away.
Nothing goes away.
Big enterprises never remove things. They just build on top of things.
Which leads us into the one tool that I found this week. That's from AWS Labs. Remember I was talking about EKS a little bit earlier?
Spec Cuddle? How do you pronounce this? Spec Cuddle.
That's what we're going to call it. Spec Cuddle.
Okay.
You ready? Extract and transform Kubernetes objects to ECS and vice versa. So I can either go from Kubernetes to ECS, or I can go from ECS back over to EKS. Right now it's only EKS, I think. Or no, it does support full Kubernetes.
So,
Sorry.
I can understand perfectly why there would be a tool that moves stuff from ECS to Kubernetes. How many? From ECS to EKS. I'm not sure that many move the other way around.
But why? Okay. But what if you made a bad decision and went to EKS and you're spending 80% of your time maintaining EKS when you really just need to say, here's the image, go run
ECS.
it. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. But I hope, and I'm probably wrong here, right, that you realize that relatively early, right? You don't go from, typically, if you do things right, you might go from ECS to EKS because your scale increased and the complexities of what you need, and you need more than ECS, and that's perfectly valid over time. Now, I can easily imagine how it goes the other way around. You start with EKS, you realize, hey, why am I going crazy with Kubernetes when I can do something as simple as ECS in this case? But hopefully you don't realize that 2 years later, right?
You would hope so.
You know, when you need to transform, right? You're still experimenting in a way.
Well, you may have gotten into EKS thinking it was fully managed, right? And hopefully, again, it's not 2 years into it before you decide to pull that ripcord. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting about it. The default conversion is from Kubernetes to ECS.
Okay, so
not the other way around.
That's for those who made a mistake. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And this is actually because we've seen tools to go from container to Kubernetes. That's nothing abnormal.
Yeah, it's a natural progression, right? You start with something simple. I run Docker. I can run my application or two applications on my laptop. Then I move it to server. Then I realize that I need to scale up and what's not, or I need security, whatever I need. Then you move to Kubernetes. Natural progression. ECS to Kubernetes, also natural progression, if you ask me, for big guys. Netflixes of the world.
Correct. But anyway, I thought this was a great little tool. Again, from AWS Labs, right? And it's good. It's like, I think this to me, as much as I like to sort of bash on AWS every once in a while, again, they're the big dog, so it's easy to bash on the big dogs. But to provide this, something that's not officially supported, completely okay. I made a bad decision, and now I want to move from Kubernetes to ECS Fargate. Now, this also gives somebody the ability, let's say they're running Kubernetes and they've been running Kubernetes on premise and they're going to be moving to AWS, right? They decide, okay, now we can make the move, but what we've actually been running really doesn't need the overhead of full Kubernetes. We've been able to break it down to that's a perfect use case for this.
Yeah, right? Especially since on-prem you don't have ECS like solution, or at least not many, right? But this works only from EKS, not from Kubernetes.
No. Kubernetes only. Kubernetes in general.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I initially misspoke about EKS, which is always easy to do, right? But I think it's a great little tool, and it creates Terraform for you to do this. That's its purpose in life. So, at least I believe that was true. I remember reading that somewhere. You have to install Terraform, V&V, and then do that. I think it's a great little tool. And then this week, you were Ddosifying yourself.
I was more actually rambling about performance testing and using Ddosify as example than really Ddosify, speaking about specifically Ddosify. But yeah, I was rumbling a lot. This is one of the, I do those couple of times a year. A lot of rumbling.
I did one of those today. That'll be out in a few weeks. It's very weird. Those are, are the rambling ones harder to do or easier to do?
Harder.
Mentally, it's a lot harder.
It's much harder, right? Because kind of, if you're familiar with the landscape and stuff like that, speaking about the tool, to me, it's much easier, right? Because, okay, this is what it does. This is what it does well. This is what it does wrong. You need to have certain level of experience with the rest of the ecosystem to compare it and so that you know what's good and what's bad. But rumbling, meaning, hey, I want to tell you about the things you do wrong with performance testing, in this case, many other. To me, that's much harder, right? Because it takes much more time to gather your thoughts, random thoughts, into something coherent.
Agreed. Yes, the big dogs are expensive to take up. Look, I have a big dog, literally a big dog. He's not that big, 60 pounds. He's a lot more expensive than the little 20-pound dog that we used to have. I agree. That's all the news we have this week. Can you believe it? I could have talked about AI, but I don't want to.
Me neither. I was joking when I said I heard a lot this week about AI. I ignore AI kind of completely, unless we're talking about something serious like Bard, ChatGPT, and what's not.
Okay, hang on a second. Well, wait, you're putting Bard as being serious, which it's not. At least not that I've seen. Let me show you something that somebody showed me today, and you may have already seen it, and I can't find it. Okay, how do we get to... Sorry, I know you can't see this. I also switched out my keyboard, so now I have my loud keyboard in here again. Gum. There we go. Okay, so I got this. Okay, here we go. Where are we? Here we are. So we're back at Charm again.
Okay, did it do something new?
It's not new, but it is... Where was it? What did he call it? Okay, here. Let me go back into GitHub, because that's how I found it today. It was... Because I told the guy about Gum, which you had a video about. Was that last week before? It's been a few weeks. But not
ago,
too... Yeah.
Not long ago.
It was... Mods.
What is it? AI, I saw AI.
AI for the command line, built for pipelines.
Okay.
So what it does is it works by reading standard in and prefacing it with a prompt supplied in the mod's argument. Then it sends it to an LLM, whatever it is. So I guess you pipe in whatever your file is and then send it out.
Yeah. Nice. But this is one of the rare occasions when I'm not a terminal guy, kind of like I'm an IDE person when it comes to code.
Yeah, this came out the most recent version was out last week. I don't know. I'll play with it, but it's just like, I don't know.
To me, for anything AI, there are two perfect. So either I'm on my mobile and then I want a real application. Don't give me any of that web or this or that. Or I'm working, and then it's Visual Studio Code, or it's on my computer, but for leisure, then it's browser. Any fourth medium is not good in my book.
Yeah. It uses GPT-4 by default, but you can specify any model that you want. But again, what I'm looking for is where do you drop in the API key? Because they're not doing this for free. They can't be. But I haven't seen where you put in the key.
You can work with ChatGPT. I'm not sure about API, but is API key only?
Let's see.
Yeah, it must be. Even browser requires you to log in, right?
Yeah, but you can still use the free version, which falls back to 3.5. Yeah, you have to set the Open API, so it's dependent on this Open API key, which is the standard thing. Anyway. But local AI. We're in a multitude of models. So this is the thing, is you could just run the model locally. So this is where my Mac Studio may come into to play. I don't know. That's what I would try to do, is like, I don't mind paying OpenAI for things, but for this, to where I could spend hours, I don't want to pay OpenAI for this. Let's try to answer his question here, and then I actually do need to go get ready for this meeting.
So I don't know what's MLH fellowship. But if it's demonstrating, SRE can be.
Oh, it's Major League Hacking. Major League Hacking.
Okay.
It is. So, let me show it.
Okay.
Quick.
So it's probably the question is just a project that he will contribute to. If the question is about the project, I always have the same answer. The one you are most familiar with as a user.
Yeah.
Right? And this is not specifically to this question, but in general, when people ask me, which project should I contribute? Which one do you like as a user? That's the one.
Yeah, I was trying to see here if they had any. So I'm assuming he's going for this track here. But I just don't know. Web3 is still a thing?
Judging by the short description, it seems more like not necessarily a project as if contributing, writing code, pull requests, but more like
operating.
Operations.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish I had an answer. I don't know. Sorry.
Me neither. Yeah. I mean, if it's contributing to the project, pick the one you like. If it's operational side that is expected from you, then whatever you're most comfortable with, right? I cannot suggest, hey, do something with Knative serverless. If not, that's not kind of whatever you're most comfortable with.
Like, I'll give an example, and I'm not making this as a recommendation, but just it's something I'm familiar with. The Jenkins community has an infrastructure team that takes care of all the things. So are there other, if you don't care about Jenkins, that's fine. But are there other projects that have that same type of, how do you call it, requirement within the project, like to keep their own stuff running?
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? If you want to, let's say you want to help with Jenkins operational side of Jenkins project and stuff like that, right? I probably wouldn't recommend, hey, you never use Jenkins, jump into that. Right?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, you've got to at least conceptually understand what's going on.
Exactly.
So whatever you're used to using, try to go down that path, and is there an infrastructure part of this project?
Exactly.
That you can
have.
Yeah. Okay. We will be back next week, but then it starts getting a little sketchy from there, I think. Well, it's because of you. You're traveling.
I know, it's always my fault.
Except for July. Then I think that's going to be my fault. But we'll see. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here with us live today. Before you leave, do the YouTube things, like thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. For everybody that was new here today, thanks for hanging out. And we will see you again, next week.